Before I run this week's piano book, which is a bumper episode, I just wanted to let you know about some forthcoming events which I'm really excited about. The Black Weekend at Spitfire Audio isn't just about buying and selling kit, it's our yearly kind of fiesta. So there's loads of stuff to look at on the main Spitfire channels, including a completely, kind of surprising interview I did recently at Martin Phipps' studio. He's my fave composer in the UK, and if you're a fan of the hit series The Crown, you're probably a fan of his. What Black Weekend would be complete without the tombola? That's happening on Friday, the 29th of November at 1500 hours GMT. Saturday, 30th November, really excited about this, at 1400 hours, so a little bit earlier, GMT. We're going to do our first surgery. Now, this is something that you can take part in, even if you can't make the stream. We'll record it and post it for later. But if you want to use the handle hashtag the Spitfire Surgery 2019 to put any questions forward, we'll try and get to them. Now, I'm not talking about questions about us, the composer panel that you'll be addressing them at. It's not an AMA, nor indeed about who we are, etc., etc. It's more about, it's like a doctor's surgery, us dealing with any problems, issues, concerns that you may have, any advice that you need. So please put some comments down below or at the handle that I suggested. Sunday, 1st of December, Pinch Punch. My brother and Alexis are joining me at the HQ for a live stream to talk about breaking into writing music for computer games. So if you have any questions for them, either in the comments down below or use the handle hashtag the flight at Spitfire Audio. And this is really exciting. On the 2nd December, we're bringing Creative Cribs back, and this is the one you've all been waiting for. So as I say, all of the streams will be recorded for good measure, but do join us if you can, and whatever questions you have, we'll try and answer. Okay, on with Piano Book. Now this is a rarity. When the sun burns off the cloud further up and lower down. So if you can see, we're actually above the cloud here. It's still a little bit misty, but it may break through whilst we do this episode. It's amazing to hear the sound of the cars beneath the dragon's breath, as the Welsh call it, or the har, as they call it around here. Welcome back to Piano Book. It's delightful to be back in Scotland doing what I love the most, making sounds, and it's a bumper crop of stuff that we'll get up to today. If you recall, a few weeks ago I experimented with how to sample a piano with a cheap mic, an SM57, which was a bit on the broken side. I discussed maybe experimenting with tracking it like you would a vocal, miking each individual string. Well, I wanted to expand on that experiment. So not only did I get a fresh SM57, I also thought we could look at close miking with two other mics. There's this British company causing great waves called Sontronics, especially with their ribbon mics. But this is their new dynamic vocal microphone called Solo. Then, of course, the trusty KM184. This should be the second mic in everyone's mic cupboard. So how best to mic these so that you can best represent all three? Well, I got out the gaffer tape, duct tape. Sorry. So with all of this sticky goo on these nice new microphones, I'm going to make a go at super close miking every note, or rather string, I play. These mics are about 30 millimeters. That's just over an inch in old speak from the hammers. So it should be quite an intense sound. Although Arp Quadra, a very generous member of our community, said that every day is a Black Friday with Piano Book, I'm determined for this to work as my Black Friday, Thanksgiving, Cyber Monday offering to us all in thanks. So here I am playing two of each notes, trying to closely match them, just like you would if you were tracking a vocal, and then two round robins before moving on to the next string. The Shure SM57 and Sontronics Solo come in under the $100 mark, whilst the KM184 made by Neumann is closer to the $700 mark. Will we be able to hear that difference, I wonder? The KM184 is incredibly versatile, but it's also an amazing mic buddy when you're employing the use of mic pairings for single sources, something I'll show you in the future. So after post-production, this is what I was left with, which I've done a lot of post-production on. So I've sorted out these notes, the long notes and the triggers. And then you'll see here, if we just have a quick listen to what I've done, basically taken the first note and I've panned that to the left, and the second note, which is the same note, pan that to the right, which gives that great kind of spatial effect. I then bounced all of these down and re-chopped them up, the KM184, the 57 and the Solo on separate tracks, exported those and then noise reduced them. So let's have a listen to how that worked out. So this is the track piano with all of them in, so all of the mics playing simultaneously. Have a listen to, let's go SM57, the one we're familiar with first. So this is just stripped it out with just the SM57 in. And then we've got the Solo. And the KM184. Amazing at the bottom end there. So if we just put all of the mics in and just put a bit of splosh on just to hear them contextually. So, verdict. Doesn't really work, this ultra, and it's not the mics themselves, it's just this ultra close miking method. This, I think, richly demonstrates what I've always believed, or what Paul and I have always believed in Spitfire, is you've got to mic the air around these instruments. Close miking them is simply kind of miking the interaction of the player and the instrument, not necessarily the instrument itself. So, back to the drawing board. But first, you may recall me many moons ago visiting Max in Manchester to record his splendid Bentley piano. I left it to the community to build, and you've all got it to a good point, but I thought I'd have a start from scratch because there's something I want to talk about today. I mentioned it earlier, the importance of post-production. So after tidying up the sessions, picking takes, flattening those awful playlist things that Logic does down, I normalised the audio. Not each sample, that would be bad, as we don't want noise floors going up and down all over the place. Just the entire files relative to each other and to 0 dB. This is simply to make our lives easier down the line, which is what post-production is all about. So you see, I've been snipping up all the notes and selecting their pre-rolls so we can edit within Kontakt without returning to this session. Now, first issue I think we all had is a creak. There, but also pretty much on every note. I thought at first it was a camera autofocusing, but it's Max's sustain pedal. So I made an executive decision and I've decided to get rid of these bits entirely. I'm using fancy curves to make them as realistically possible. Now, whilst these may sound very fake before noise reduction, because you can hear the whole room disappear, I'm hoping that once we noise reduce, it won't be so obvious. So I'm going to rebounce with these fades and silences, and then I'm going to recut all the samples, and that's fine because of our fab grid system. Then titling. I'm going to get a tutorial on quick keys if it's the last thing I do, so I won't bore you with that, other than the devil is in the detail and the precision of your titling. Here's me converting all of these regions into individual files. But before I go to noise reduce, I have the most important piece of post-production that there is. Reading all the files to check everything is titled correctly. There's one. Snow blindness is the biggest time soak in the business of making sounds. So fixing and identifying problems when they're as simple as text will save you a whole world of pain later when we go from spotting issues with titles to trying to figure out why the wrong note is sounding, not sounding at all, or a key is firing two completely different notes. Okay, for noise reducing, I'm going to do a combination of buzz and spectral noise reduction, and doesn't that look dramatic? So that's where I'm up to this week. Next week, I'm going to be implementing into Kontakt and talking to the guys at Spitfire about how they prepare Kontakt for implementation. Right. And I can report that we do get there. There is a sound here that I think is really interesting. Okay, this time I'm going to use my ears and listen to where the sweet spot is, and instead of miking each string, I'm going to adopt 3 mic positions, left, centre, right, with the mic a ruler's length about a foot away from the hammers. And again, 2 of each note and 2 release triggers. And it's worth noting that whilst I did this, it was absolutely pissing it down with rain, and it's really noisy in the shed when it does that because it comes spattering down on the flat roof not far away from where these mics are. So this is a real test of limited resources in a testing environment. Same principle here. So had a tidy up, did it free without cater or anything like that. So basically what I've done is I've got the left and right solos, and you'll see that they're hard panned left and right. But what I thought would be interesting was for the middle section to actually just bring those in a bit, so that just to give it just a little bit more sense of movement through the space as opposed to all just coming out of left and right. So we've got hard left, hard right, and then quarter to, quarter past. And I've repeated that throughout the process there. Prepared all of those, bounced them out into a single track, which I then rechopped here, and then I've titled it out for noise reduction. So let's see how it turned out. So you'll see that bits of the screen are blurred out. There's a reason for that you'll hear in a minute. That's more like it. Let's put a bit of splosh on. Absolutely stunning. So it'd be great to hear what you think is the KM184, if you can really hear those differences. So I'm going to basically see if I can play that same piece again, and there's a poll up above. I won't keep you waiting. The answer's buried in the comments down below, so check those out there. But if you maybe just poll before you check out the answer, we'll get an idea whether it's kind of worth that extra $300. So I'm going to go in no apparent order. And they do work really nicely in different combinations. Very rich, very nice. I'm really pleased with this. I think this gives it a kind of a naivety that is absolutely beautiful. I think that what you'll hear where the kind of price difference is concerned is the upper end. It's kind of interesting considering these things are kind of quite small capsule. I think it's as if you need a bigger capsule for the top end. If you hear up here, it sounds like really kind of almost vintage. But this is definitely a technique, and I just think it's just great to kind of, again, play to the strengths of what you have around you. But I think it's great to know that you can make a really interesting sounding, very naive, very kind of upfront piano just with a $100 microphone. Really happy with the results of that. Thanks as always for watching, and thanks so much for everyone who is taking part in this amazing experiment. There's some really exciting stuff to come next week, so do subscribe if you haven't done, and ding that bell if you want to be notified the next time I put a video up. One of those for all of the amazing submissions, and grab your free samples and submit pianos and demos at pianobook.co.uk. See you next time.
God, look at this.